All right, let's call the work session to order at 7:02 p.m. And we'll let the minutes reflect that all the board is here and some distinguished staff members as well, and a number of audience participants that we'll see or hear from here shortly. So the October 8th, 2014 minutes were in our packet. Would entertain a motion of approval of those minutes.
I'll move.
Okay, it's been moved. Second?
I'll second.
All right, Paul, thanks. Any question, discussion on the minutes? Okay, seeing none, the minutes will stand approved as written. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it. All 17 pages of those minutes. Thank you. Not go unnoticed. Monthly reports for September are all in hand. Thank you. No public hearings this evening. We have a number of guests. We're going to start with probably one of the most special guests there is, Mr. Chris Bilow, our Recreation Director. Give us a little snapshot of rec programs. So, Mr. Bilow, welcome.
Thank you. A quick little handout, and what I'll do is I'll go over a couple of things that are kind of key numbers and program numbers. First off, I apologize for not being here at the last work session. My calendar seemed to not want to function with what I was scheduled for that day. So what I put together is a list of summer programs. Really, when I talked to about coming in, I really wanted to focus on as we just finished our summer series or our summer program. So what I did was we went through and pulled together a lot of what I'll just say is key numbers or key totals for program participations. Just briefly, what I'll share is obviously these numbers, when you look at it, are quite significant. I know it was a very, what I'll say, very successful and very busy summer for the entire department, not from just a youth standpoint, but also from our senior standpoint. So quickly looking at this, you can see what I've done is I broke it down. Our youth program participation for the summer, we had just over or just under 4,100 what we classify as youth. That's actually preschools through youth grade participants. Some of those key numbers programs are listed below. Obviously, the bulk of that comes in our day camp program that we service. For the summer, we were right around 1,500 kids. The aquatics program is obviously our second biggest between the lessons and open swim during the summer months. And again, when I say summer months, I'm referring to June to about August. We were right around 1,000. Sport camps, which are in addition to our normal day camp operation, those are sports-specific programs. We were just over 800, and then the soccer league, which we continue to operate in one of the few municipalities that actually runs an in-house soccer league. We were right around 450 kids that are in that program. So again, very busy, as is normal for us during the summertime. The second part that I highlighted, and I continue to do this because we see some growth in this area, is our senior participation. And what I did was we actually ran the numbers from what, again, we say summer being May to the current time. During that time frame of June, July, and August, a number of our programs tend, especially for the senior population and adults, tends to drop a little bit just because of the type of activities that go on and the time constraints. So I rolled this over into the fall, and as you can see, throughout the last basically 6 months, from about May to about now, we've had just over 2,000 seniors that participate. And what I've done is I broke this into the same thing, key areas. And the reason that I did it this way was that Tuesday lunch continues to be a very popular, as you can see, program. But the rest of those programs, from the Thursday lecture series, the Smart Drive programs, the trips, and the Deer programs, that is that different clientele of senior population that I've talked about, previously. It's coming in from an educational standpoint versus just a social standpoint. While there's benefits to both sides to it, I really think that with the Deer program expanding, it's really brought in a different clientele of seniors into the community center. The third bullet that I have on here are really, as I started to put this together, it actually got, actually, I'm sorry, I don't want to jump ahead. The third bullet is the amphitheater. Typically, we like to have a wrap up after the last event, which is Tasting the Blues, and get final numbers. These are all what we consider estimate numbers. We try to take as close to a head count as we can for each one of those. But they're pretty accurate. I mean, they can be, fluctuate a little bit, but for the most part, they're pretty accurate. Started the season with the food truck rodeo, which, if you remember from a weather-wise, was absolutely perfect. Just under 1,000 people, we figure, from that. That's the old Taste of Penfield that we sort of reshaped into this food truck rodeo. We ended the season with the Taste in the Blues, and that finished with around 400 people for the day. That one, opposite to the food truck, was not the nicest day. It was probably the one of the worst days we've had for a season finale at the amphitheater, but we still had around 400 people that attended. The next three are the bullets for the series: the Jazz Series, the Kids Fest Series, and then the Saturdays on Stage. Jazz and Kids Fest are both four program series. Again, you see very strong numbers with the Jazz, just under 1,000. The Kids Fest Series, strong at 1,200, and if you think about it as we look at these numbers, a lot of that is because obviously the kids are there with mom and dad, so that's the reason we get a little bit of a influx versus, say, the Jazz Series, where you may get one or two people. So the Kids Fest Series continues to be, from a family event, very well attended. And the Saturdays on Stage, we've actually pared that back to just 2 events, where we used to have the 4 similar to the others. But we pared that back because what we've tried to do is bring in, I don't want to say better, but larger acts where we can draw more. And it's obviously shown with just 2 acts. We had just over 1,000, and one of those was actually Gap Span, where we had to move it into the community center because of weather. This last bullet is programs, and I've highlighted, what you see highlighted in yellow are different groups that we've collaborated or partnered with since basically April. These are special events that the department has had some interaction with involved, whether it be planning, promoting, assisting, whatever it might be in regards to the type of events. But you can see it goes everywhere from April with the Penfield Cleanup Day, all the way through basically right up until Halloween is even listed on here. So those are all the special events that we've been affiliated, some more than others, obviously. Some numbers are quite impressive. You look at some of the programs, like especially like July 4th. That's probably a conservative estimate, around 8,000 people between the parade and the fireworks event. Again, from a weather-wise, which we could control, but we had one of the largest and most successful 4th of Julys in a long time, so that was really nice to see. So I thought it was interesting as I was putting this all together at all the different, and I know I've shared this before when I've been in, talking about how we try to do things and collaborate with other groups. This is just a snapshot from April until October.
No, Memorial Day, you could have added the American Legion.
Yep, and a number of these we probably I could have expanded. And actually, at one point I said to a couple of the staff, I said, I got to keep this to less than 3 minutes, otherwise,
Tony gets upset.
Yeah. The last bullet that's on here, I did throw in here, because I know there's been a lot of, people have talked and asked questions about outside groups, and that just shows you what we've done on town property with some of these outside agencies, Penfield Little League, Rangers, Strikers, and then Penfield Youth Lacrosse. During the summertime, that's an example of the games that are played or the activities that go on from an organized standpoint. That doesn't count any practice time or anything like that, but that just shows, Penfield Little League is an example. There was over 900 games that were played over here. Rangers and Strikers between Town Hall or Veterans Memorial Fields, as well as Rothfuss, around 250, and then lacrosse between Rothfuss and Greenwood. We had right around 80 or so games that were actually played. And again, that's just from a game activity standpoint. So as you can see, it's been been busy, but it's been, it's been very good.
Well, Chris, I'm impressed, really am, at the work that you and your staff have done, in your short time there as the director. I mean, Michelle and I and the kids have attended many of these events, but when you actually look at a snapshot of the summer on paper, it's remarkable the number of participants we've had. I mean, you go to one event and you see the crowd, and I just see the crowd and kind of walk away, but you are actually keeping track of the numbers there, and it really was a very good summer for these events. So great job as you continue to look for different opportunities and staff for the town residents here. Just one thought. I know this was more of a summer thing, but when you talk about the sort of youth programs, has there been any thought or any discussions amongst you and some of your staff about doing programs or having programs during break weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things, actually, we met, I'll say it was early September, I think it was at our department meeting.
Okay.
That was one of the things that we actually talked about, was doing some off or break week, and similar to what we did last year during the December break. That one actually was the break week where we worked with the East Side Y and the school district. The school district provided the transportation, East Side provided the staffing, we provided the registration and structure. We've talked about doing something similar like that again. The other concept that we talked about, and actually we've gotten some pretty good feedback from the outside group, was running some specific sport-oriented type of programs, because I've been approached, especially after the summer, with a lot of the coaches that have said, hey, I'd like to do something during the school year. So we reached back to them, again, about a month ago and said, would you be interested in doing some break week type of activities where kids can come in and take part? We've had a long-standing relationship with the cheerleading program, where during especially the Christmas and the February break, they'll run a cheerleading program that's extremely well attended. So we thought, well, maybe we can get the basketball coach to come in and do something, lacrosse coach, so give a multiple option for people to do so. That's on the table as well now.
And Chris, just to kind of follow up on what Rob was saying, I know Rob brought the idea up to me maybe sometime over the summer. I can't remember exactly when, about the success that the town has had with our summer camps. The week-long camps and so forth, and trying to replicate that during now Christmas break, seems to be 2 weeks. You've got the February break, the spring break, and so forth, and not everybody goes away on vacation during those times. And what Rob was saying to me was, in talking with other parents, they're always looking for things to do, and quite honestly, whether it's half-day camps or full-day camps. Certainly in the winter time, you're kind of limited on what you can do being outside, so forth. Everybody seems to want to go to the same things, such as the Children's Museum of Play and the Museum and Science Center. So those places are just packed beyond belief. And quite honestly, some parents that I've talked to, I know Rob has talked to them too, has mentioned that it becomes kind of a babysitting daycare issue for them in some ways. And so, meaning they have to take the week off, even though they're not going anywhere, their kids are home. Either the one of the spouses needs to stay home. And so, if we could look into doing some type of camp, that would be, I don't know, 8 to 4, 9 to 5, or 8 to 3, whatever it is. I mean, I'd let you decide what works. I mean, you're dealing with parents and kids all day long, and for instance, at the community center, you could have some type of arts and crafts, some type of library type event, and then combine that with something in the gym there for some athletic to fill up 4 hours of time or something along those lines.
It's not difficult from a planning standpoint or program standpoint to do. It is something like I mentioned, we're gonna start to get back. What I'll say is get back into that. We used to run a program, I'm going to say probably maybe 5-6 years ago. It was called Kinetic Camp Program, and that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
It was very specific as to, they came in at 8 or 9, they got picked up at 4 or 5.
Right.
Their day was planned out. A lot of times they would have a field trip built
Sure.
in, they might have
Yeah.
gone to Wegmans, or they
Yeah.
might have done some local type of a field trip. They even used the pool occasionally. What we saw with that is some of our numbers started to decline. Part of that could have been just the program itself, part of that could have just been, who knows what it could have
Yeah.
been, advertising, whatever. But similar to even what we've seen at the amphitheater with the Taste of Penfield, where it kind of went away, and when it came back different, it had some success.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
something like that may show that by bringing it back in a different form, similar in nature, you're still doing the same type of activities, but maybe labeled a little differently.
Right.
You'll have some success with it. So that's what we're kind of banking on.
Yeah, no, and I would encourage you and your staff to take a look at some of those ideas, and I think that, parents, I truly believe that the parents are always looking for things to do with their kids and activities, and taking a week off from work may not be that attractive to them, and if they could, allow their child to go to a fun camp, sponsored by the town, and maybe they only have to take off a half day,
Right.
to do that.
Or they make other arrangements.
Exactly.
It's more
It
common.
makes it easier on the parents, so they're not taking a full week off, and also provides the child or the youth some fun activities, both, and I keep using the community center because it offers a little bit of everything. You got the library, you've got arts and crafts rooms and instruction rooms, and you've got the gym, so you can kind of hit 3 different elements, and keep a kid busy for 4 hours. And I think your field trip idea, that's great. You throw in a field trip there somewhere, and I think it could be a really good experience. And I think it could be something that parents in Penfield would embrace during the winter time, where there's not everybody skis, not everybody heads south during those breaks, and they're always looking for things to do for their children. And so the more I thought about Rob's idea, the more I'm like, I think that is a pretty good idea, and let's talk about it and see if we can get the ball rolling in some ways. So
Good.
Hey, Chris, I like how you listed all these different community groups. When you came and spoke at library board one night, Chris came in because we were discussing how that could be partnering going on between the two entities. And I'm not thinking just about the children, I'm thinking about the adults as well, because there's been some decline in some of the senior, not programs, but what the library offers. They have those different read a book, a certain, great decisions.
Okay.
Those they've been around forever, they've kind of been on a decline, whereas then you got Pam and the DEAR program, which is similar in a lot of respects, the type of people that come in that want to educate themselves and so on like that. And it'd be an opportunity, maybe some programming between the rec department and the library for adult programs as well as the children's programs.
And we continue to have those discussions with the libraries, specifically with Bunny about, again, partnering in the type of activities that they're doing, we're doing, and where we can find common ground. Because I think that's as I said to the library board, we're right down the hall from each other, and we should be able to partner on these type of events, because they are in many ways so similar.
Yeah, so some things that you might see a decline and they don't, but they're similar, and vice versa. Maybe somehow bringing them together could benefit.
And I really think a lot of what we've seen in the DEAR program has resulted from people's experience already within the library and some of their programs, so that they've shifted over into some of those lecture series that we've done.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll just skip back in terms of like the Kinetic kids. My daughter was a Kinetic kid for a couple years. I think she's been to every camp, as you know. She even did the cheerleading camp, but she doesn't want me letting anyone know that when she was real little. And I recall that I think the need is definitely always there, for working parents and for non-working parents who want their kids to have some activity and not just sit at home all break. And I recall that when Kinetic kids started to kind of have a bit of a decline or drop off, it was more, I think, from what I heard from parents, was that it's tough. They didn't feel the need to or desire to sign their kids up for a Monday through Friday, a whole big chunk. So maybe more of an a la carte type approach, where if I need Monday through Friday, there's something every day, But if I only need a couple days, I don't have to pay the whole shot for Monday through Friday. If maybe I'm only taking a couple days off from work, that's the field trip advantage, I think, that I've seen on other breaks, where there's a bowling or a ski trip or sea breeze, you know, all those very popular events during other breaks, summer and otherwise, where families can look at the program booklet or the brochure online and say, oh, great, here's a couple day events and I'll get some of their friends together, and, you know, I'm a mom, I'll take this day off, and this mom will take the next day off, and we'll kind of shift around and not see this whole week of a break
Right.
camp, which, you know, it was great for our circumstances, but I think there were some people who, you know, didn't want to feel like they're putting their kids in a camp for a whole week when, you know, they're on vacation.
What's funny is the one program that has continued from a break week standpoint is, it's very similar to that, is the a la carte, is the bowling program. You know, usually during, we run it during the winter, and then we run it during the February. February and April. We don't run it during the winter run. But that program is probably the most successful. I mean, that's one that's continued, that we continue to do, and that is, you know, if you want to go bowling, it's usually on that Wednesday of the break week. It's about a 2.5 hour block. You know, for one price, they can bowl, they can get pizza, everything's included. Parents bring their kids, drop them off, there's a staff person that's there, they supervise, they come pick them up, they go away. So that one, for whatever reason, because of the activity, the day, who knows what, has sort of, I'll say, stood the test of time.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones, like the ski trips, they've sort of fallen off because of, I think, logistics, maybe cost, who knows, but the bowling would continue. But the a la carte, from a week standpoint, is an interesting idea.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. The next rec brochure comes out early December.
Yeah.
In that rec brochure, it will take Christmas vacation, February break, and even press into...
It's a winter spring brochure.
Right,
yeah.
right on. So what could we expect to see in that brochure by way of this program we've been talking about?
Well, like I said, I think what we can do is, now listening to the, you know, putting together a la carte, or, you know, some sort of a way for parents to be able to pick and choose what they want. I think we could come up with some type of a week program where people can decide if they need 1 day versus 5 days. But I'm going to stick to also having, you know, maybe a little bit more specialized type of programs too. If somebody's looking for a 4-day or 4 hour a day versus a whole day, and it's specific to an event, whether it's cheerleading, basketball, whatever it might be, there'll be an option for that too.
Okay.
Great.
All right. So I'll leave a standing invitation because I know that the members of the board just love to have this dialogue with you about different things. So I'll leave it as a standing invitation. If you want to run some things by us between now and
Sure.
When you crank that brochure out.
That usually goes out, don't quote me, but we've got about another couple of weeks. We probably got about 3 or 4 more weeks, so yeah, we'll have something together.
I just
Okay.
generally want to commend you, because you certainly, within the last, especially within the last 2 years, I've noticed, I mean, you and your staff are just maximizing the facilities, indoor, outdoor, maximizing your staff, and, you know, making it so that these programs are very recognizable. The DEER program is incredible. For those who don't know, it's the day education at recreation. Is that correct?
That's for daytime education.
Daytime education at recreation. And it just certainly has taken up, I think, more than maybe some of us anticipated that it would, as far as the variety of programs and the interest that continues to grow with people. So I just, what just spoke to me now was just your maximization of partnerships, facilities, staff. You know, I'm a big fan of the rec staff, particularly the summer staff, and I think what's truly special that I don't think a lot of communities have is the retention you have of your staff.
Yeah.
We see the same people
Oh, yeah.
coming back over and over again to be counselors, and then it's great. My kids will have a counselor they've known for years from summer camp, working at the amphitheater, and they take such an interest in our kids, and it's just been tremendous in my family to have the staff members who you have who they just love doing what they do, and they love coming back even if they've gone elsewhere.
That is we are unique to have that.
Yeah, because you usually see more of a
Correct.
turnover, I think, in communities and rec staff, and people go on their way, school and otherwise. So it's a credit to you and your department that you are encouraging and them to come back, and that they're seeking to come back.
Actually,
and-
they seek it too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, they're from the time they leave, they're usually contacting us by December, January, wanting to know how they can come back again. So they obviously have had a successful time.
I joke
So
with
thanks.
Buddy and Erkfitz saying that you guys have actually helped me raise my daughter. It's kind of a scary thought, but they just
That is a scary
That
thought.
is a scary thought.
kids just know them. They see them in Wegmans.
That's
And
good.
it's not unique to my
That's good.
family whatsoever. It's certainly other families I know as well, and I think it's real comforting to families when we sign our kids up for events and activities that they're most likely gonna know someone who's
Yep.
running it or working it.
Okay. Other questions for Chris? All right, Chris, thanks. Appreciate it. And a little recognition for Chris. Today was the annual health fair, our 4th annual health fair, wellness fair, excuse me. And Chris and the team that he works with putting that together, Michelle Scarlata, especially Phyllis Ely, and some other reps did a fabulous job. We've got a waning list of folks, vendors, that want to participate
Nice.
in the program, and probably one of the best ones run across the
It was a good
county.
event
So,
today.
so nice job today, and thanks for those efforts. All right.
Thanks.
Very good.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, thanks, Chris. We'll move on to our next guest, Rudy Neufeld, and I see Peter Vars from BME as they're making their way up here. I had an opportunity to stick my head in at a handing over gathering at BME here within the last couple of weeks, and Bruce Bonke, who's been around that business for
Thank you.
35 plus years, is moving on to his next chapter and turning the reins over, and the lead person for that effort is Mr. Vars. So congratulations to Peter and his management team as they take BME engineering to that next level. So welcome.
Thank you, Tony. And actually, a little anecdote, and I think Jim might be the only person that knows this, but actually the first presentation I ever did was for Fran Hirsch in this building for Sheffield Square Subdivision. So my point being, is though I may have a new title, I still come back to my favorite town.
You come back to the roots. So the other piece. So if we're going down this memory lane a little bit, a piece of information, a piece of trivia that I thought was kind of interesting is that Bruce Bonke hired Peter out of Clarkson, and the only person that Peter has worked for in his entire career was Bruce Bonke, which was kind of an interesting piece. And now Bonke has to go on bended knee back to Vars to at least get a cup of coffee back
That's
at
right.
the firm. So it's amazing how things turn. All right, Mr. Neufeld.
Yeah, let me give you a little brief introduction. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. Always appreciate it. I've gotten to know Ron Verstray over the last 15 years quite well. And, a number of years ago, I made a commitment to him and his wife that when they sold the property, I would be very interested in buying it. And we didn't think they would sell quite so soon. But anyway, in an effort to try to keep my commitment, we have some ideas for you tonight. We looked at it. Of course, you guys know about Abington. We're doing patios there. Phenomenal. Thanks to your support. It's been going very, very well. We looked at this piece and decided what would be the best use for the property. In looking at the market and the public in Penfield, we think townhomes is the best use for it because Jim Barbados' project is almost done. So if people in the next year or two would like to stay in Penfield and have a townhouse, I still have about 55 patio homes, so I have enough, about 3 or 4 year inventory of those. But when it comes to nice townhomes besides Village Square, which will probably be done this year in the middle of next, they have to leave Penfield. They're either going to Webster or they're going to Fairport. So we thought that, based on a good concept, would be the best use for the property. Ron's piece was a nursery. I don't know if you've ever, probably bought flowers from him over the years, but it's very well wooded, secluded, and we'll be able to pretty much keep the exterior of it the way it is. So on a drive-by on 250, and of course my neighbors are living all around it on 3 sides. We'll be able to keep a 20 or 30-foot buffer, and from a visual standpoint, other than a driveway and a sign, you won't know that there's a subject. So that was kind of our concept, and Peter's got a few more little details, and any questions you have, feel free.
Great, thank you, Rudy. So we've given you 2 exhibits, the concept plan, I guess, as we would call it, just basically shows you what our thoughts are, what Rudy's thoughts were as to putting this duplex type of a product on the property. It actually lays out pretty well because the depth of the property, or the width, is 340 feet, so it serves well. And this layout, in a way, should look familiar to you. It is a replica of Village Square off 5 Mile Line Road, and in more ways than one. Obviously, the private road, the duplexes on each side, it's the same lot, dimensions being considered the same structures, but also what Rudy referred to, it's the same presentation to the highway itself. And what I mean by that, the existing house that's on the property today, would be retained. We're setting aside about a 3/4 acre lot for that. And then on the other side, it'd be landscaping, berming, and their stormwater management area. So that's very similar to what we did at 5 Mile Line Road, if you recall that, or drive by it tomorrow. So as I said, it's a familiar product and layout. Just some of the, I guess, semantics. The property is zoned today RA2, and it's 6.7 acres in size, so it would yield 3 lots. We would be looking for an incentive zoning proposal on this to introduce the duplex. In our vernacular and what we do, this is a classic infill project, and the fact that it is surrounded on all 3 sides by typical suburban residential development. The colored photo we gave you gives you a sense of what zoning and uses are that surround the property. We say it's on the right side of Route 250. It's on the west side where the typical suburban development has taken place. Cranberry Cove to the north and west, Abington Place to the south, and then we're due south, obviously, of the village and town of Webster, where the development density is a little bit more intense. A couple of things. The lot sizes we talked about are the same as what we have in Village Square, around 7,500 square feet. That actually is the minimum lot size in Abington Place to the south, the lots that would be backing up to this. Those patio lots, through that incentive zoning proposal, were established at a 7,500 square foot minimum. So there's some compatibility there. Property would be served by utilities. There's sewer available. There's water available. As Rudy mentioned, we would be providing a buffer around the property. It would be HOA controlled, just like Village Square is. As you look to the north, Cranberry Woods, actually, if you combine the 25-foot buffer that is proposed here, Cranberry Cove has also a 30-foot conservation easement on their property. So that actually yields a 55-foot buffer, if you want to call it, or conservation area between the 2 neighborhoods. We believe strongly that, this is one of those situations, again, infill development, where how it's situated, how it's laid out, it would be it won't have a significant impact as to those traveling on 250. We're in the Route 250 corridor area. That study recommended density in this area of 2 to 4 units per acre. The density here is proposed for 24 new units plus the existing house. So that works out right around 3.5 units per acre. Ironically, that's the same density Village Square is off 5 Mile Line Road. That was 12 units on 3.4 acres. So it's almost a doubling of that. It's really just extending the private drive that much further. So we just wanted to come in this evening to introduce the thought process to you, and Rudy has laid out where the history he's had with the property, and he's just thinking of some ideas of what to do here and looking for feedback as to whether it's, I guess, worth his while to pursue it in this concept, or if there's something else he should be considering. So thank you for letting us come in so quickly also.
The one question I think that we need to just put on the table and have some dialogue. I know at one point there was some concerns about sewer capacity to the north going to into Webster, and I know that that was a discussion point at Abington, and may have even been part of the Cranberry Woods piece as well. And can we get just a snapshot update as to where that is today?
Yeah, I'll fill you in a little bit on the non-technical side. What we've done with Abington, Webster has given us capacity for all of Abington. And what they're doing over there, they're targeting this year, Visca, there's a developer that has a little development on the other side of State Road. They're putting in their third section. They're planning on doing it this year. I don't know if they started or will start this year. As soon as they start that, one of the requirements the town has is they will give them an easement then to connect a piece of sewer that's too small. In fact, the town of Penfield has some funding for that from us. So the town of Webster will spearhead that. And when they're ready for it, they'll make that connection, and then they'll have about 500 units that they'd like to have because they'll want the capacity. So for this piece, until that connector's done, I don't know if 24 units would make a difference technically, but if it does, then this couldn't happen until at least the end of this or next year when that connecting piece is finished.
And have you had any conversations, even at an informal or high level, with Webster about this proposed project?
No,
Okay.
this is strictly an idea, and I didn't want to really take it too
Okay.
far till we talk to you folks and see if it all works out. Their feeling is that, they're going to do that as soon as they get the approval, and then they're going to be looking for units from Penfield for the next few years.
Got it. Okay.
I was wondering why you want incentive zoning versus rezoning. And what is the incentive?
I'll answer the first question first, and then I'll have to let Rudy answer the second. With this type of product, that's what I'm looking for, not sure if there really is a zoning district that fits it. If we look to the townhouse or something like that, because we're not looking for 8 units an acre either. We could do that, but again, it doesn't necessarily fit what we're looking to do. So, we thought the incentive zoning was the appropriate course of action, given the history with Abington Place primarily, and with Village Square, because Village Square was done under that. So it was really kind of like, maybe for lack of a better way to put it, it's a route we know. And then obviously with regards to the incentives, I can't speak for Rudy but we understand that usually what we prefer to do is meet with the town on that, to also identify if there's any specific needs like in the area, special projects or importance that could work off this. So
I didn't know if you had something in mind already.
nothing really specific, but again.
We really don't, and I can only base off history what we did with Abington. I think there was, I don't know, Jimmy, $3,600 I think
Excuse me.
we pay with a permit, so the incentive for this would be $68,000, $75,000, give or take. And that can be an incentive fee, it can be a Parks and Recreation contribution. I mean, I'd leave that up to staff, how you direct me to go and what makes the most sense. There is also, because I'm so cheap, there's a beautiful Morton building on this property. It's a little older, but it's a all aluminum building, and at some point, we're gonna have to get rid of it, so I'm gonna try to find somebody to donate it to, give it to. I don't know if the town has any use for it, but at some point, I just don't have the heart to wreck that beautiful building.
Peter, you mentioned a little bit of the buffer on the north side of this property. As far as to the west and the south, it looks as if, at least to the west, and then perhaps to the south, that the property lines may come right up to what is Abington right now?
Abington is to the south.
Correct.
Cranberry is to the west.
Okay, so when you have buffer in here, are you talking about keeping natural vegetation, what is currently there, putting fencing up? I mean, my concern is that anyone, particularly to the west and then to the south, for the individuals who are purchasing new homes in Abington, I don't know what they envision would be the property to the north forever. I don't know if they think
Right.
it's going to be forever wild or eventually it's going to be
Something.
turned into something. So I would hate to have Mr. Supervisor's phone calls or his phone ringing going, what are you doing taking away all this natural buffering to the north? And now I can see straight through to the backyards in Cranberry Cove. So if you want to just address.
I'd be happy to. We've had this discussion, these neighbors are already all in, they're in my Abington development, so everybody's already moved in and living here.
Okay.
And the discussion was had with them, I didn't own it at the time, it wasn't for sale at the time, but there's a very likelihood that something is going to be developed back there. There's not a lot of trees and vegetation that we kept because of a swale there.
Okay.
But this green that you see, Mr. Verstray had the nursery. There is a stand of absolutely fabulous pine trees, just about the 3/4 of the perimeter, and the rest of it is very thick vegetation. There's plenty of space that we have to, and the way the grading is, everything falls naturally from our place to his, so we don't have to go in there with a machine and do anything. So there would be a 30-foot stand of the vegetation that you can go see there today, that my neighbors are expecting. And we couldn't make a commitment, but we told them if we ever did it, that stand of trees would stay. So I don't think that will be an issue, and it's not like they weren't aware of something being done there.
Okay.
And what we do too, as soon as this is even an idea that the board likes, we'll do our neighborhood meeting with my people, show them this, let them know what's going on, answer the questions, take a site walk. We offer to do that with them, so I don't think that would be an issue. I think they'll all be happy.
Yeah, and
Very
then-
good.
And I was gonna say, the only thing I would add to that, very similar to Village Square, if you recall, where we backed up to the existing residences to the south there
Right.
along High School Drive. What may have been lacking in existing vegetation, excuse me, we did infill planting. So it's, again, rudimentary plan. I guess, at this stage, again, we're identifying that those two strips are, we want to establish buffers if one doesn't currently exist naturally.
Right.
So, because it is the intent to buffer this neighborhood from the adjoiners.
Okay, and I'm glad you brought that, because I was going to say that I know that you've done your due diligence, especially with the property off of 5 Mile Line, with meeting with.
Anybody seen it, how beautiful it looks?
It's going, yeah.
The fountains and the bridges. Staff says, why are you spending all this money? I want it to be beautiful. One other thing too, the 3 people here in my Cranberry Cove, when we originally did them, there was probably about maybe 40 or 50 feet of woods. We don't show it there that we left. Some of them have cleared, some,
Okay.
but there's a pretty good stand from there to their property as well.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was going to be my next question. I'd hate to have, especially this middle homeowner, having lights coming straight into their living room 24/7 down the middle of the street. So if there is still some form of natural, vegetation, perhaps infill or whatever else, but.
We'd like to, I really like the way the fencing that we did it, if you've seen it there at Village Square, that it's got a little decorative to it, and we did a segment of those in trees, and I would, even with the vegetation there, propose maybe 50 or 60 feet of that right in the middle, so no matter what angle those lights are hitting, it's totally blocked from them on the back. I think for a privacy issue from both, I'd like to do. We haven't thought that far ahead, but those are things that we definitely look at.
Just like I said, I wanted to throw it out there.
No,
That's
that's
one of the
good.
things I
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Rudy, you've always been pretty consistent maintaining good relationships with people that you build homes for and so forth. Have you had any conversation regarding this plan with any of these homeowners to your north?
No.
Not yet?
No, this is the first
Yeah,
run
no,
at it.
yeah, I
We
understand.
wanted to get feedback here before we even open that window or,
Okay.
get anybody excited about what may or may not
Yeah.
be happening here,
Okay.
if anything.
These are owned units?
Their own units,
Okay.
yep.
Price
Owned-
range that you're looking for?
Pretty much the same as Village Square. It'll start in the 220 range.
Okay.
The private drive, would you envision that being where everything would go when one's building?
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, this would be an HOA, private drive, fully maintained, the water,
Well, I
you
was
know.
thinking when it's the issues that you had with the fill and so on, and it was going through the neighborhood, and some of the neighbors didn't like it.
Oh, yeah.
This wouldn't be created.
I don't think so. There's gonna be
Because
some
it's-
fill needed, but it's, the fill would be brought in before there's ever a resident, because this is so small, we wouldn't do it in segments.
I was gonna say, more importantly, this will be developed as a single phase. So all of that, if you wanna call it that heavy construction work, will be done before the first house is constructed.
Straight through 250 though, it wouldn't be going through.
No, it
Oh,
would, no, it would not,
Right,
it's
there's
not
only a si-
connected.
I didn't point that out, but right, there is only a single point of access proposed onto Route 250.
Yeah, I wasn't sure when you were building it, if there'd still be an opportunity, because there'd still be homes that hadn't been built or. That's
This
good,
would be
that's good,
filled,
because you don't wanna go
and then
through
the road would be built, and there's just no room here to try to do, what we did over there.
Right.
And that is full, by the way, so it's full, it's graded, it's seeded, looks really nice.
In this southwest corner of the Verstraete property, you've got the Cranberry Wood homes, and then you've got your Abington to Lot 6. And then that little corner, there's an existing sanitary sewer easement. What's in that little corner?
That's another lot, Tony.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, it's just not labeled.
Not a problem, not a problem.
That's lot 85, in fact, the house is going up there now.
Okay, all right.
That's one of yours.
Yeah, single gal is moving in first of the year.
Okay. All right, other questions, board?
Not at this moment.
Historically, what we do when we review plans like this, and thank you, it gives us an opportunity, because we always like to have an opportunity to see and have conversations at this phase without a lot of money being invested in plans and details. And typically what we'll do is we'll take a couple weeks. If we have any additional requests or items that we need, we'll have either Mr. Costello, Benway, or Valentine post that loop back with you. And then we'll come together, we'll watch for it on the agenda, then we'll bring it back, and the board will provide or direct staff to follow up with a letter. Here are some concerns to watch out for, here are some things that we think you should address, et cetera. So we'll look to do that over the next couple of weeks.
Great.
All
Thank
right.
you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Right, thanks,
Forward
thank
to
you. All right, we'll move on to our next guest, and we'll ask Keith to join us, kind of a follow-up from 2 weeks ago. And Keith, I think you've got some additional information that the board has received from Mr. Costello, and the floor is yours.
Beautiful. So, we talked a couple weeks ago about the Gilda's Gallop. It's a run, the 5K that we're attempting to do through the club, November 22nd. So I have handouts, but I just want to reiterate, through the board's recommendation, we tweaked our route. So we didn't have what I thought was an awesome idea. Is now reshifted to
Even a more awesome idea.
a better, the bestest idea yet. So it's,
Unique, more unique, I think. is more unique.
yeah, so.
We did receive some additional information.
Right, and this is probably
So that was-
the same stuff, but that's how I roll. So, once again, I would just want to reiterate that Chief Ed Meyer is in support of this, and once, if and when this is approved, that's when we'll sit down and nail it out with how many volunteers and so forth, and from the fire police, as well as the varsity board that I have, or the varsity club, through the boosters, we have about 25 students plus staff, so we got plenty of volunteers to assist. So, one recommendation the recommendation that I went with was utilizing Old Penfield Road. So, we're gonna still go from the club, head across the street to Winterset and do a loop, which is on page 2. I took some photos and just also kind of mapped this out. There's a loop in Winterset and Heather, and then coming back up, and we're gonna utilize the sidewalks going all the way up to Penfield Road. The only time that Panorama Trail will be slowed down is fire police will act as crossing guards. Fire the gun, go over to Winterset. When they're done with that loop,
Yeah.
close off traffic, then they're done, and we don't have to really mess around with any traffic, because then everything else would be sidewalk-based.
It's wide enough, it'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're running, I don't know if the people are gonna be like, how thick.
There's big
how-
prize money, there's medals involved, so.
Do they go single, are they gonna be double, or they?
No, they'll be,
And the race ultimately ends at the poorhouse.
that's a perfect race.
So
It's a
it should be just a great opportunity, so.
So, with the help of Jim and his support, I did meet with Jack Odenbach, and they are allowing us to use the Manitou Lake access road. And we actually were toying with going around that, which would be phenomenal, but I don't have enough time to weed whack, so we're doing a little abridged version of that, which we can use the access road, run down to the lake, loop around and come back. And it's actually 3.1 miles. So by adding the Winterset and Heather, it's a home run, so.
Excellent.
Thanks, Jim.
So my quick question for you, I think using the police and the fire on Panorama Trail is a great idea, and I commend you for doing that. What are you thinking of doing? I mean, Brook Hill, there's 2 apartment complexes right there. Obviously, you've got the Genesee Conservation League entrance back in there. Are you looking at doing the same type of?
As I put on here for fire police, I think it was in number 4. Depending on the number of volunteers that we have, we're going to use them for the M&T entrance, the Penn Valley entrance. I think when people hear gunshots, they're going to run a little faster, so I'm not really worried about the conservation up there. But
Well, Andy brings up one interesting point. The traffic light there, down across from the tops, that's where the post office is too.
Right.
So maybe on a Saturday morning, there may be some heavy traffic in there. So when you speak with Chief Ed Meyer, you may just.
I'm going to go through and do all those access points.
Okay.
And Frank Stoll has also supported the idea. We're going to utilize some parking from him, so he's aware that we're going to be doing that. So. Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, I think so. It's still pretty hilly.
I think it's much improved, and I think
Yeah,
it's
well,
unique. I mean, it's
Year one,
scenic-wise and-
so I appreciate the advice and recommendations, so I think we got it down.
Very good.
Certainly, I think certainly a better for all participants. I think going into Winterset, at the initial start of the race, that'll help thin out those that are the true competitors versus those that are there to have that end prize, which is maybe a nice camaraderie and maybe a cold lager and some food at the poorhouse and some things like that.
Sure.
So I think overall this is great. I think the next step, I did in my most recent meeting with Captain Clerk from Zone A last Friday, I did share this with him that you were anticipating doing this, that we're going to get some additional information tonight. So I'll take a copy of this and just push it his way as an FYI so that his guys have it. You still may want to just touch down, but at least he'll have it in hand.
Right, okay.
So he's not promising, his guys will be there, but they'll be aware, and if not assigned to something else, they'll be in the area.
Right, and that's why I banked on the fire police too,
Good.
because I know that'll be a
Right.
done deal. And there's a few members that are MCSOs that are willing to volunteer too, so
Excellent.
we'll have enough.
Okay, good.
As far as signage coming southbound on Panorama Trail, I know those construction trailer signs that you can like wheel around and put up. I don't know if the town has
message
one.
boards?
Yeah, a little message board, but my only concern is just cars coming southbound sort of right around the time the race is going to begin, having to unexpectedly see fire police in the middle of the road. Again, it's just something else to speak with Chief Edmeyer
Or
about. But
stopping quickly.
stopping quickly, I mean, you know how the traffic is
Sure.
pulling in and out of the club, so just
The county has those, we could talk to
something
them.
else that
I can
maybe,
talk to them.
caution or a temporary reduction in speed limit for the last, quarter mile. I don't know how that works, but
Would you maybe make that connection for
Will do.
Keith, Jeff, at least give him a name and a phone number, or maybe pave that way, because I think Rob makes a good point. If there's that sign that could be
Safety.
spotted at Lost Mountain.
Yeah.
Right.
And just say, caution,
Runners.
yeah.
Road race ahead.
Road race.
Road race, and then maybe,
Expect delays.
Not
kind of
rage,
thing,
road
yeah.
race.
so, okay.
Will do.
And if we could help with that, that's just another safety factor I think could help not only the racers, but certainly the fire police.
Can I just call you at the Penfield rec number?
Perfect.
Okay.
I have a cell.
Oh, you do? Okay, thank you.
Email.
Great. Good. Board, other questions, comments?
No.
Appreciate you looking
good
at an
luck.
alternative route.
Staff,
Yeah.
any other points from your end?
You did a great job.
Okay, good. Thank you,
All right, thank you
Keith.
very
Thanks.
much.
Good luck with the race. I hope it's a good fundraiser.
You're all invited to the party, so come by around noon to the courthouse.
We will.
We don't even have to
will be
run?
Notifying residents of the race.
Yes, that's a good point,
So we
guys.
need to, is it, when
Who's
is
with the
it?
race?
Okay.
So we'll
22nd.
hit the winter set and then those at least along. Okay.
Okay, excellent, thank you.
All right,
for your support.
thank you. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to law and finance under action items. Item 1, Ashlyn Rise, transfer of property, kind of a follow-up from a couple of weeks ago.
Thank you, Tony. One of the issues with respect to the transfer, I don't think anybody had a problem with the transfer itself, but Tony did mention the fact that there was a sidewalk waiver, and there was things associated with that sidewalk waiver as it related, particularly in this case, to the trail that was initially going to be installed over the sidewalk, over the sanitary easement down through the property that's subject to the transfer, and then ultimately through the Blake Miller property. I did go back, and I think I sent you the resolutions of approval. There was also a reference in the resolution of approval to a sidewalk analysis that was done, a waiver analysis. Jeff was good enough to go through and do an inventory of what was done, what has not been done, and what the PRC would like to see done. I want to just go over that with you tonight and give you an analysis of what we're looking at now. In essence, the board did grant a waiver, but the waiver was granted subject to the applicant developing a sidewalk and trail program that would not exceed $115,500. As part of that, what it was, let's go back here for you, was the installation of sidewalks along Fellows Road within the track itself on the one side of the track. And then there was going to be an access that came through here for a walkway, a hiking trail, then down through here, and then off to Penfield Road. The whole issue at hand now is the fact that this sanitary sewer is no longer going to be installed. We like the idea of putting the trail into the sanitary sewer. Number one is a method of getting access to Penfield Road without having to go all the way around Fellows. And secondly, it would keep vegetation down on our sanitary sewer lines, so we have an access easement over, easy access to it if we needed to do that. So today, what's happened is the developer has installed sidewalks along Fellows Road within the tract, and as each house is being built, the sidewalks are being extended, and they're almost all done, with the exception of a couple in this area here. There is still a stretch of sidewalk to be installed, and Jeff has indicated it's about 510 feet. That wasn't installed yet because, actually I can't tell you why it wasn't installed yet, but one of the issues at hand is this is not his property. This is property owned by another individual who has a house on the site. Our recommendation would be, right now to this point, of the $115,500 that was allotted for this process, approximately $98,875 has been expended to date. That leaves about $16,625. We've been looking at this area, in lieu of having to go through all this, we're recommending to you, the PRC is recommending to you that this sidewalk be installed, if we can get the sanitary, the sidewalk easement, or if we can put it in the right of way. We may have to do the right of way because there is a lot of cattail growth. There is a DEC wetland adjacent to it, so we may be in the right of way to do that. We're thinking at that amount, we are charged $35 per linear foot when we do sidewalks. He obviously would be less than that. 510 feet, it's about the $16,625. So we think that our recommendation to you is that would go in.
Would that take us north all the way to 441?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a little bit bend here, but yes, you get to the right of way of 441 by doing
And there's currently no sidewalk.
that. No.
Right.
And there's no sidewalk until you get to the FedEx track up here at Fox Hill. Actually, it's right here.
There's not even a shoulder, is there? I mean, it's really.
There's not much there, you're right. As a matter of fact, I think the DOT was gonna go in and do some improvements, and they held off at some point in time until 15 or 16 they're gonna go in and do it. That might also spur them to put some sidewalks in that area, if there are sidewalks existing in close proximity to
Right.
the project.
And just out of curiosity, not to back the truck up all the way here, but just out of curiosity, the land or the topography in the old route there, I mean, I know we talked about a boardwalk and a marsh, but just out of curiosity, I mean, are we talking, what kind of infrastructure would have to even go in there to make that a viable pathway?
You can see this is the wetland itself here. Here's the adjacent area to the wetland.
Okay.
This is all cattail growth and swamp area. It would be an extensive process.
It'd be a boardwalk, have to be
It would have to be a
elevated and
boardwalk.
very detailed.
And you can't do any filling within the wetland, they won't let you do that, so it's
Okay.
gonna have to be built with coils or something of that nature to kind of suspend it over the cattail growth.
And the reason we had talked about boardwalk at the time is that if they were going to be putting the sewer in,
Right.
through that area, we'd have a kind of an access point, if you will, and it would be an opportunity. I think we had talked about a combination of a path or a foot trail and boardwalk as needed to get through the wet areas, similar to what we see in the 1,000-acre swamp and a couple of other areas.
It would have been an extensive project.
So the recommendation is continue, pick up and pull that at 500 plus or minus feet, and then stop it at that point.
We'll work with the property owner to see if we can get an easement if we need it. If not, we'll work on the right of way to stay on this property.
Yeah, I would support the PRC's recommendation in this regard. I think it goes along with the original intent of our discussion and resolution and what we're looking to have accomplished in that area.
And it will be nice to get sidewalks all the way along
Fellows Road.
Fellows Road.
Yeah, right. I think he's down to the park.
It's
It's a long trip. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move forward with that, and that'll take care of that particular item. Thank you for the follow-up from PRC and Kaz and Jeff on that. All right, we'll move on to this next item, which is the Southpoint Cove apartment complex freestanding signs.
Yeah, this was initially an application to the zoning board of appeals, so I apologize, but I grabbed it from the zoning board because I explained to the building inspector that you have jurisdiction over the signage.
I do, thanks, guys.
These are the color copies.
Oh.
Normally, when we have a development, any residential or multi-residential development in the Penfield, the sign that they're entitled to have is a 20 square foot sign, and if there's going to be some type of a masonry structure supporting it, that can be up to 40 square feet. In this case, they're asking for signage that's a little bit in excess of that, and there's some other features to this plan you should be aware of. The signage that they're looking at right now is two signs. The first sign is a smaller sign, and that's the sign that they're proposing for the condo project.
Luxury condos.
Pardon?
Luxury condos.
Yes,
Eagle's Nest.
that's right. The second sign is to identify the Southpoint Cove apartment complex, which is separate and distinct from the condo project. So with respect to the condo project, the sign itself, the lettering itself is 4 by 12, so it's 48 square feet.
Which one was that, guys? I'm
I
sorry.
said it's the smaller one.
The smaller one,
Southpoint Cove,
48 square?
Luxury condos, yes, it's 48 square feet for the signs itself. The masonry structure supporting it actually comes out to be about 228 square feet because of the pilings and the length of the sign itself. The larger sign, the actual wording is about 32 square feet.
Oh.
The structure itself is about 288.5 feet. And that's inclusive of the masonry and the fencing area that's part of the process there. It's all decorative, and it's part of their process.
Is this right off Empire Boulevard? Or how far
So,
off?
yeah, so if you look right behind you, as a matter of fact, there's also a map, and it's probably not,
Into the building.
that's the landscape is sort of a window.
This one, the run.
And just to give you a
runabout lane.
perspective, a real perspective of what's happening, here's their property. And here's condo sign placed here. Here's the sign proposed for the apartment complex here. Okay? So they own here.
Why don't they put the little cupola thing?
And thought process, I suspect on their part was the fact that you're going down there 45, 50, 55 miles per hour, so
Yeah.
you're not gonna see it unless it's a larger scale than what is really proposed for. Or a traditional subdivision
Do
sign.
they really need two different signs? Couldn't they combine them? I mean, would it really matter until you get down to the condos?
I don't know, it's their contention that they wanna have two separate entities on the site. There will be two separate parcels.
Jim? Oh, I'm sorry, no, go ahead, finish
There are
your.
two separate parcels on the site, one
Right.
parcel to accommodate the condo, the other parcel to accommodate the remaining portion of the project.
I'm fine with the two signs, the two entry point signs. The thing that bothers me with these two signs, I don't see any nautical theme in these signs.
Well, that's the other feature. If you look at the top of this page, and I did not notice this until earlier this week, there's a notation over the Southpoint Cove sign that says spillover waterfall. So if you look at, this architectural thing, there is a pool between
Yeah.
where it says Southpoint Cove
Water basin,
and that lower wall in front of it.
Nautical.
So their intent is to have water
Coming from
coming
where?
over that wall.
So you can't see the name?
I don't know, and I've got to find
Is
out
it
more
like a
about that
lit,
for you.
like the
My thinking is,
lights go like
This is
a
the waterfall, these are the
I
signs.
think I need to see a picture of that, how it works.
That's the pool, it makes more sense for water to come over those.
no, actually, that's,
Huh.
That's odd.
well, my intent was not to have you approve the sign this evening, we need more information. and
I
the
would,
intent is to get
I
that.
would
Yeah.
request, I've been very consistent in this project about nautical themes, being that it's down by the water. That I appreciate they're trying to add water in here, and I think there's but the potential for it to look really nice. The concept, I'm okay with. I don't see a real nautical theme in what I'm looking at right now. I'm okay with two signs, perfect, not a problem. I'd like to see a real effort in a nautical theme. Colors, things like that, I'm good with that. That's okay. I just don't see a nautical theme with what I'm looking at here.
Is there a concern for waterfall?
No, I'll let the designers or landscape architects come out with what they think looks good. Waterfall, some type of.
I did not approve of the waterfall
I
at Lake
was
Miller,
thinking the
but
same
that was
thing.
just because it was within the Four Corners district. I am not opposed to a waterfall at this particular.
Or a fountain,
Or-
some
yeah.
fountain, I'm okay with that.
My only question for Jeff would be the size of these signs. It's not gonna create an unnecessary sightline hazard or anything along those lines, right?
We wouldn't allow it.
I didn't think so. It doesn't look like
It's
it's
far
going to
enough
be.
back, as you can see from the site
Okay,
plan.
yeah, otherwise, I agree with Andy.
Cars at the intersection.
It's actually behind the sidewalk, and there's a distance from the sidewalk actually from Cannon Surfers. So there's quite a distance from the street.
I would
You
agree
may
too.
still have a tough time seeing it, actually, truth be told.
I would do too, in terms of being consistent. I think just from a design standpoint, certainly they're consistent with their color scheme, but, there has to be some element of nautical waterfront, harbor marina.
Sure.
Design that they can pull from the project and duplicate or replicate somehow on the corners and, if it's a.
Metal boats or whatever.
Yeah, something, I mean, there has to be something, the rope that they were using.
Right.
That,
A cupola on top.
I'll relay that to you.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll show this as a held item, and
Andy.
we'll be looking for some additional information.
If they want to have a waterfall or some type of fountain, I'm okay with that. I just,
Yeah.
I need to see more of a nautical theme.
More clarity.
Very good, I will be sure that you get something.
Okay, great. We'll shift to Public Works. We have 1469 Jackson Road, sidewalk waiver. Mr. Benway.
I was able to talk to Mr. D'Angelo today. He said that he has no problem pursuing a permit. He just doesn't, and then to install that sidewalk. There's plenty enough room to put it in the right-of-way, which is already disturbed, which might help the approval process. He'll just have to get a permit from the Monroe County DOT. So that way, he's willing to drop his request for a waiver. Should the state DEC not give him permission, obviously he'd have to come back to you and request.
Okay, so the
Some change.
proposal is to drop
He
drop
would
the
prefer to
request.
drop the request, for the waiver request for the
Okay.
sidewalk.
So
Okay.
we'll let the minutes reflect that, and we would expect to see sidewalks in that area?
Yes.
Unless DEC says something else. Excuse me. No, actually DEC.
Oh, DEC?
Yes,
Right, DEC.
Yes.
Yeah, DOT approved, DEC may have some
Oh,
concerns.
I see, okay.
yeah, I wouldn't expect it from the
As to
county,
where
but
they
it's,
are.
they'd have to get a permit from them as well.
Got it, okay. All right, then we'll move on to the special district extensions.
Same subdivision, we needed to do a sanitary sewer extension, number 57 for sanitary sewers. Excuse me, and also do a special improvement district for pond maintenance
You
on the
okay, Jeff?
subdivision. So the
You
goal.
okay?
Yep, I'm
All
fine.
right, just checking.
So a resolution will be necessary to set the public hearing, shooting for probably December 3rd meeting, if everybody's in favor.
So we'll do a resolution, we'll do our first, the resolution for the first meeting in November, right?
Fifth?
We'd have to do it on the 5th in order to get the advertising time that we need for the hearing on the 3rd.
That's why we're looking at the December
Okay.
3rd meeting for the public hearing.
Okay, board, any concerns with that?
No.
Okay, we'll let, and we'll move forward with that. Mr. Benway, have you got the action item?
Yes, I do.
For Mr. Valentine or?
Well, DeFrancisco probably.
Or DeFrancisco?
Yeah, he's usually
Okay.
our
So you
district
guys will get
person.
that, you guys will get that
Will
taken
do.
care of. All right, and that will need to be in on Halloween. All right, very good. Any other questions? All right, thanks. That brings us down to information items, and the only item we have is just an update on Manse Lane. We talked about it briefly 2 weeks ago. Jeff, I know you've been doing a little bit more legwork on that, started to do, or the highway guys started to do some flushing over there, at least some more inspections. Anything new you want to just add to
Jim
the record?
Fletcher and I walked it. We did find a couple more structures, although a lot of them are hidden underneath brush and gardens. The highway guys were planning on being out there this week. Unfortunately, there's some problems with the nozzle, the camera attachment for the flush truck. So their goal, as of our meeting today, was to be out there by November 3rd. It's like that's the first. Next week, everybody's committed to paving Mott's Lane. So we're following that. The following, huh?
Looks good.
It
by
has
the way.
come along really nice.
Yeah.
And weather's looking good for people.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I agree.
they'll be able to get to it on November 3rd. And I did talk to Mrs. Sterrett today on the phone and informed her of that progress, and she was okay with that.
Okay,
Excellent.
great,
And we'll
excellent.
still keep it on watershed management as far as an
Absolutely.
update.
Just an update, that'd be great.
Which will be, that November 3rd date, as a matter of fact. So they should have been out there the day we have our meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
good. So we'll have hopefully have an update and see if we can make sure Dennis, is there that night, as well, because I'm guessing he'll spend a lot of the time, in the field with that. So, okay. All right, that brings us to the end of the agenda. Anything that's of crisis nature that we need to get on the table? All right, if not, then the meeting of October 22nd will stand adjourned at 8:15. Thank you very much, board, staff, viewing public, and Lisa.